Hello everyone, my name is Rhyok. I just joined VRChat a few days ago. I've been messing around with cleaning up some models because we have a certain limit in VRChat for user models, and that limit is 20k polys. So you got to make sure you're under 20,000 polygons in whatever model you're using, otherwise you can't get it in game. So I just wanted to kind of show my process for how I cleaned up this model and run through it. So this is a model from Miku Miku Dance. It's a model of Felix Argyle from RE0. We started out with this, so this is going to open up in Blender here. Did I open the right one? Oh, sorry, this one. And it's untextured, but that's okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. So we started out with this model, which, as you can see, it's very smooth and extremely high poly. We are actually looking at 100,000 according to Blender. I will show you in a second why that's not actually the case, but there's a lot of polygons, and it definitely shows. If I can get my camera controls to work right here. And this model has a lot of detail built into it. And a lot of this I wanted to keep because I just think it looks really good. So, the first thing I did was, the first thing I was recommended to do by a friend was to just go around and look for geometry that isn't really necessary. So, if we pop into edit mode so we can see vertexes and take a look around, you'll notice there's some interesting shapes that are in the model itself, but they actually, so like these, if I pop back out into object view mode, there's nothing here, but they're here, and these are used for like effects in Miku Miku Dance. So like this is a teardrop that might show up if your character's crying, and Miku Miku Dance knows how to deal with that. VRChat doesn't. So this is unnecessary for VRChat stuff. And there's a lot of stuff like this on this model. So like if we pop inside Felix's head, you'll see there's a lot of like emotion textures that Miku Miku Dance might use. We don't need those at all. They're just hidden inside so that when someone imports this model, they're somewhere in the model and they can be pulled in at any time. You'll also notice, looking at some of the geometry, like at these ears, for example, if we take a look outside, it's got this convex shape, right? You have, this pointy thing sticking out, but if you look inside, there's still geometry in here for no real good reason. Like, no one is ever going to see this unless they clip their head into your character's head, and I think that's illegal in VRChat, so don't do that. But anyways, the point being that there's a lot of stuff that you will not see on a regular basis that isn't necessary. And some models, depending on where you get them, might have that. There are other things in this model that are just like they're there because they're nice to have, like these nipples. But again, you're never going to see those if this is what you have. If you took all the clothes off of Felix, why would you ever want to do that? Then you might see those. And like, there's a particularly large offender is this underwear, which is never used. It's not even textured. And it's got a fair amount of polygons, so like this is the kind of stuff you want to hunt for when you first pull in a model, is things that you can't see in vertex edit mode, but you can, things that you can't see in object mode but can see in vertex edit mode, because this is just wasted space and processing time for your computer. So anyways, so I've spent like the last few hours here doing a cleanup on that, and this was the final result. So a lot of that unnecessary geometry was removed. Just to give you like a brief overview of how to do that. Once you're in vertex edit mode, you can select any vertex by right-clicking it. If you hit X, that brings up the delete menu, and you can pick any one of these options to delete, whatever you have selected. So in this case, I only have a vert. So if you delete that vert, completely removes that face. Blender has a pretty handy vertex painting mode, which is accessed by clicking C. So it will only paint things that you can see, like that are immediately in front of you. So that's pretty useful if you want to really quickly do some brushing, and then just hit escape, hold down X, hit F for faces, and that deletes everything. Oh, don't do that though. I don't know what I just did. I'm still learning Blender. But there's a lot of like small things that I did, like this skin texture used to extend all the way back here, and I removed a lot of that because, to be honest, yes, you can see if you look really closely, like through the hair, that hey, there's nothing back there, but no one is going to really be looking that closely at your model. You got to balance between looking good and getting under the poly limit. So that was the first sort of step, is just deleting all this unnecessary geometry. You know, the underwear is gone, the nipples are gone, all the stuff inside his head is gone. So the second step, and I'm gonna pop open the older model for this just to demonstrate something. The second step is to turn textures back on, and then do something called Decimate. Decimate is it's an operation that's performed on models to try to join vertexes and edges together in a way that still looks good, but reduces the total poly count. So you'll see up here, oops, let me get my mouse cursor back. You'll see up here we're at about 104K tries, which is way over. So all Decimate does is it's very simple to use, but it might not look quite right when you first use it. So you give it a ratio. The ratio is just the target number of, like, if I multiply this ratio times the number of tries, that's the target number I'm going for. So I want to get under 20K. So if I do the math, that's 20% of 100,000, give or take. So as long as you're in object edit mode, this should just pop in immediately. And Blender does a pretty decent job at trying to preserve the details, but you'll see, like, we lost the nose, and like there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't look quite right about the model anymore. Like, we lost a lot of that quality, and part of that is because, remember, I just pulled back up the old model, like the model that had all the unnecessary stuff. So when it does Decimate on the model with more vertexes, it has to do more crunching on everything in order to get it to that target number, just because there's more. So like, and unfortunately I didn't save a draft after I did all the geometry cleanup, but this model looks a lot different when you like remove some of the more complex shapes that are hidden in here, like these things, and then perform Decimate. So that's why you do that cleanup pass first to get you under the limit. Now you'll see here, and this really confused me at first, I have 15,000 faces, but the number I had up here said I had 100K, and that doesn't add up. The ratio is 0.2, so it should be around 20K. So one thing that's going on is Decimate can only go so far. If you have very simple shapes, it can't really join those effectively and make them look good still, so it kind of gives up at that point. But the other thing is, like, why is this number here almost 2 times the number up here? And what I figured out was Miku Miku Dance has some physics collider information with it. So over here, this is I imported the I think it's PKM or whatever format that Miku Miku Dance uses, and it had a custom editor for this stuff. So if I turn on rigid bodies, you'll see that there's a lot of collision volumes that are here that are extremely detailed, like insanely detailed for you know, this model. Like there are capsules on everything, and they are very, very not going to say super tightly bound. It's not like a mesh collider, but like this is super unnecessary, especially for VRChat, because you're never going to use all this data. You don't need anything more than like a simple collider. So these actually contribute to that vert count up there. So like if I delete one of these things, you'll see the vert count starts going down ever so slightly. And if I like go back in here, turn off the mesh, and then select all of this crap, by doing, so this is now B, which is box selector. It's like the circle select, well, it's not like the circle selector, it's like a traditional rectangle select. And then I nuke all this stuff and turn the mesh back on. Where'd you go, baby? Ah, crap. This happened last time. Sorry, let me undo a few times. And my computer's checking because I'm recording. So, if you select all this, turn the mesh back on, then delete. Oh no. I swear this worked before. Okay, hold on. Do this one more time. So, deselect by right-clicking. Or not. I'm just going to deselect by doing that, maybe. Yeah, I'm still new to Blender, so forgive me for not knowing all this. There we go. So, turn the mesh back on. And delete. And now we've removed all that physics information. So, like, Decimate doesn't look like a ton better, but it looks a little better. And you'll see now, like, oh goodness, you'll see the face count now matches the faces up here, and that's a very ugly cat boy. I'm so sorry for that. And that's really what we're looking for. So that extra information, kind of a red herring. I'm not sure it actually matters, because you can, when you import it in Unity, you will see those volumes and you can turn them off. But it's good to have these counts match so you know exactly what you're aiming for. So that was the general process. The final result ended up looking like... Which one is it? Ah, screw it, I'll just open it again. Come on, Blender. This is the final results, and I've got it pretty tightly bound, so we're at 19,915, so I can't really add a whole lot of new geometry, but it still looks like really good. It looks close to the source model. There's a few glitches, some Z fighting like right here, but good stuff overall. So I don't know, I'm pretty happy with this. Now, disclaimer, I haven't imported this into VRChat yet. I'm about to do that now, but I just wanted to show off this process really quick before I did that. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave me a comment if I got anything wrong or if there's any helpful tips and tricks that you know, because I'm still new to this too, but I just wanted to throw it back to the community since you guys have all been super helpful already. So thank you so much. Have a good one.